Euphoria is the wildly popular teen drama series on HBO that has everyone talking. Euphoria tells the story of several characters as they navigate love, friendship, sex, trauma, and social media. The world of Euphoria is intensified by its frank depictions of drug use and sexuality among teenagers. Numerous think pieces have been written about Euphoria, with some arguing that the show sexualizes its characters and glamorizes drug use to a young audience. As PasteMagazine.com put it, what's especially worthy of inspection is how the show handles sexuality, specifically how it handles nudity. First off, thinking about teenagers as sexual beings makes people uncomfortable. Furthermore, it can nonetheless be disconcerting to watch adults have their bodies revealed while pretending to be teenagers, because it feels like it's supposed to be titillating and therefore can feel violating. And more recently, representatives of the Drug and Alcohol Resistance Education Program, also known as DARE, released a statement accusing HBO of glamorizing drug use to young people. DARE representatives released a statement that read, "Rather than further each parent's desire to keep their children safe from the potentially horrific consequences of drug abuse and other high-risk behavior, HBO's television drama Euphoria chooses to misguidedly glorify and depict high school student drug use, addiction, sex, violence, and other destructive behaviors as common and widespread in today's world." As Forbes.com reported, superstar Zendaya stars in HBO's Euphoria as Rue, a teenager hopelessly addicted to drugs, her warped form of relief from the anxiety disorder that plagues her. Rue slowly sabotages her own life one bad decision at a time, surviving overdoses, lying to her friends and family, occasionally threatened by psychotic drug dealers. Clearly, her life is not supposed to be viewed as aspirational. That's the logical reading of the show. That being said, it wouldn't be the first time that the moral of the story is drowned out by a glamorous aesthetic. Euphoria's seductive cinematography, a delirious haze of lurid light and sparkling skin beautifully depict the highs and lows of drug addiction. In defense of the show, Time.com wrote, "The show excels at portraying the chaos that can happen when a young person's substance abuse gets out of control, as Rue's does. In the first episode, Rue's little sister discovers her overdosing in a puddle of her own vomit. The 2 seasons follow Rue as her drug use continues to wreck her closest relationships." It seems like everyone has an opinion on if the show is a good thing or a bad thing for youth to be watching, but no one is speaking to the young people who have been going through the same things that are being depicted in the show.
This is not easy, but I'm very proud of each and every one of you for trying to take this on, because it's no future in addiction.
When I first met her, I was just immediately in love. Rue? How you doing?
You know I need your love.
As soon as I saw her, I was just immediately afraid to lose her. When'd you relapse?
You got that hold over me.
So, Rue, the $64,000 question is, what's in the suitcase?
There's a difference between what you think you should want and what you actually want.
I'm your favorite person.
I feel like I would look so sexy pregnant. Maddie, please do not get pregnant. Wait, why do you look like that?
Like what?
Like a country music star.
In a good way or a bad way?
Bitch, you better be joking.
I came up with an amazing plan.
And what would that be, Rue?
So are y'all ready to do some business?
Why can't I shake the feeling that there's something you're not telling me?
You're like a relationship kind of girl, right?
You guys can all judge me if you want, but I do not care. I have never, ever been happier.
Oh, y'all, let's get naked right now.
I love you. I've always been with you. From before you were born.
I raised you. You wish I was different. So do I.
Until after you're gone.
Mom, don't get her. boyfriend doesn't tell me anything.
Today, I'm talking to 18-year-old Cloe May about her journey through her teen years with drug addiction. Now, at 18, Cloe is clean and turning her life around. She is one of the millions of adolescents who can relate directly to the show. Please welcome Cloe May to the hot seat. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I do want to thank you again for taking time out of your day to even do this. I'm so glad to be able to speak with you today.
Of course, my pleasure.
So I guess I'll jump right into the interview. So I know that you had a hard time growing up and that once you turned 15 years old, your mom began to kick you out of the house on and off. What was causing the strain on the relationship with your mom? And what was it like growing up in that kind of instability? How did you handle it?
Honestly, me and my mother have always had like a complicated relationship. She's always, viewed me as my father, which, me and my father, we obviously have our similarities, but we are two different people. So it's like, you can't really judge me based on, the person you don't like. But I think when stuff really started to change was I've been moving around my whole life. I've moved over 25 times. I lost count. And the big move was from Minnesota to Iowa. And that was around my 10th grade of high school. So switching schools again for the 100th time was just stressful. And like at that age and point in my life, I was like old enough to, discover new things and ideas. And at that age, you can't really leave your child alone because there's so many different factors that play into growing up as a teenager. There's always those influences around you. It's gonna happen. You can't avoid those types of things. So I moved into this completely new state. I didn't know anybody. And when I started meeting new people, I started trying new things. So, and my mom, she was always, my whole life, always working. So it's like, we didn't have that real life closeness, which is important for a teenage girl, growing up, because she needs, some sort of stability in her life and somebody to trust, and to talk to. And I didn't really have that. So, and I don't know, I got into really low depression. So I was just like, you know what, fuck it. I started smoking, all that shit. Like, I mean, I had smoked before, but it was nothing like, I'm going to do this every day type thing. But yeah, so the choices I made were like normal teenage choices. I wasn't over here like stealing cars or nothing. So, but she didn't always agree with my actions. So she started, kicking me out. She was like, these are the rules of the house. You can't follow them, then you're just going to get kicked out. So, but it was for like petty little things, So I don't know. Once the first time she kicked me out, after that, it just became a habit for us, I guess.
Now, at the beginning of the pandemic, you were just 16 years old when you went through something very traumatic. You lost your father to suicide. At one point, you said that you've been scared to do drugs previously because you were aware that you had an addictive personality and that addiction runs in your family. Do you think that with everything that you were going through with your mom and with trying to go through the grieving process, that it triggered you to begin using drug use more heavily?
Yes, for sure it did. When he died, I just completely lost it. Honestly, I just came with this like fuck it attitude, and I just, my mom gave me 2 weeks to get my shit together, and I did not handle that very well. I don't know. I started experimenting with more drugs. She just kicked me out the house more. At one point, I was living with one of my best friends now for like a year and a half after that. So yeah.
Now, when you turned 18, you said that your mom kicked you out for good and you went to live with your aunt, who was also struggling with drug addiction. Your aunt should have been looking out for you. Instead, she had you doing heroin with her. Soon your aunt also began to bring you around gang members and sex offenders, and things got so bad that she even sold you, her own niece, for drugs. I know that this was a very low point for you. How did you handle living in such a horrific environment? And at that point in time, where did you see your life going?
Honestly, I didn't handle it. I was on drugs. To get me through that time. That's the only thing I could do, because at that point I was very, very suicidal with the way I was, doing drugs and doing certain things. And I just, at one point I was doing heroin with her because I just couldn't be around her and the lifestyle she was living and the lifestyle I was living at that point without, having something to get me through it. Because then again, at that point, my mom and me was not speaking. Me and my family, we did not have a good relationship. So, and she was the only, she was actually my biological father's sister. So I had trusted her. But, you know, when shit started to get really bad, it's just, I needed something to cope with.
Your drug use led to being in a lot of bad situations, in dealing with a lot of bad people. You even dropped out of high school, but eventually you checked yourself into an inpatient treatment center. What was the specific situation or person that made you realize that you developed a serious problem and that you needed to get help?
Well, okay. I dropped out of high school, I'd say 6 months to a year before that. And that was when I was just, you know, partying with drugs, I guess. I was just, you know, I didn't really think I had a problem or anything. I just was like, I don't really know what I considered myself to be, I guess. I don't really care at all. The point where I realized I needed help was I was sitting in the living room at a crack house one day, and I was just bawling my eyes out all night, and I was like, okay, like, I need to get my shit together. Like, this, no one should be able to live like this. I don't know why I'm putting up with this, because I know I deserve better, and I know I deserve the life I want. So I called my mom. I was like, you know, I know we don't have the best relationship, but I need help. Like, I'm in this really terrible situation right now, and I need to get out of it. And she was like, okay, like, I'll help you find treatment centers. So I went to Hazelden, and I checked myself in, and yeah.
That's really insightful that you knew that you needed to get help and that you did the right thing for yourself.
Yes.
Now, you no longer do drugs. How has treatment helped you? And what advice do you have for other people struggling with addiction who don't have that insight that you had?
Well, I'm not perfect. I do smoke weed from time to time. But my advice would be, it's really tough, because if a drug addict wants to do what they're doing, there's no telling them, you know, there's no telling them what to do, because it's just, I had to figure it out on my own going through all that. I know I went through all that for a reason, because if I didn't, I would still be here to this day popping pills every day, you know, unknowing what the consequences would be. So my advice would be, honestly, just focus on the present. Don't be focusing on the past, no matter how bad it is. Don't focus on the future. The future is so unpredictable. It's so out of your hands. So just focus on the now. Like, what does your body need now? What does your mind need now? Like, what do you need help now? Go get help. It's not embarrassing at all. Like, if you need to get your life together, get your life together. Like, there's no shame in your game. Like, do what you gotta do. So
now, I know that you're a big fan of Euphoria. What do you like most about the show, and what do you dislike most about the show?
Good question. I don't like I don't like how much they sexualize it.
Me either.
Even though it is kind of realistic in some aspects. But, you know, for the 12-year-olds who are watching that show, which, you know, they are. So it's just, their minds are still molding and forming. So they're going to immediately watch that and take that as, oh, reality. In reality, that's not reality, you know. Right. Aspects of it are. What I like about it is, people say it glorifies drugs and stuff. For me personally, when I watched it, I thought it was a very, very ugly show. I didn't think it glorified anything. Like, I don't know if they're referring to when they're like experiencing the euphoric drug feeling in the show. Because, I mean, yes, that's what happens when you do drugs. Your dopamine boosts, and it's very euphoric, and it makes you want to do it again, and it makes you happy. But they also show the other side where it's like, okay, well, now look what it's doing to the people around me, the people that I love. I'm not only hurting myself, I'm hurting everybody around me. And I just think Euphoria does a really good job at just showing how fast your life can fall apart at such a young age with trying to cope with something with a substance, you know.
No, I agree with you. That actually went into my next question which was recently Euphoria drew criticism from the organization DARE, a drug abuse resistance education program,
Yeah.
and said that the show glorified drug use, and you struggled with it. And I think that everything you said was very true. It shows both sides. It's not just showing the glamorous or whatever euphoric side of it, it's showing the other side. At one point, Rue couldn't even, I think she was trying to open a piece of candy and she was struggling with that.
Yes, she was. And that was very realistic because I remember when I was having withdrawals from heroin. And mind you, I wasn't my drug of choice was opiates, like pills and stuff. When I was living with my auntie, she was doing it. So, I was doing that, but it wasn't like I was doing it every day for like a 2-week period. And it's not that I was like addicted to that feeling or anything. It's that it was the pain when I didn't like take it. I was like, I'm kid you not, the first time I tried it, 30 minutes later, my body was aching. I was like, oh shit. So this is what people are talking about when, they keep taking it. And so yeah, when I was in the treatment center withdrawing and stuff, I couldn't even get out of bed. I couldn't move at all. At one point, I was in the bathroom, like naked on the ground. I couldn't even reach the toilet, throwing up. Like, that's how bad it is. So I think, they did a good job at showing that.
Now, the main character of Euphoria is named Rue, played by Zendaya. She's a teenage drug addict. She is also sweet, likable, and has many people around her that love her. She is more than her addiction. You have many things in common with Euphoria's main character, Rue. She struggles with grieving the death of her father. She struggles with addiction, and she struggles with the relationships around her, sometimes due to her drug use. Do you find comfort in being able to relate to a character like Rue, especially since her character has been so well received by audiences?
Comfort in a certain sense, yes, because I watch other shows that I try to relate to. And honestly, this is the first show where I've watched and I'm like, okay, like I can relate to this stuff. Like this is kind of real life. And I do really relate to her character. I remember she said one thing. She was like, honestly, if my dad was still here, I'd probably still be doing this shit. And you know what? I really felt that because if people think that you need a reason to do drugs and turn your life into the wrong direction, people don't need a reason. There's rich kids and stuff with BMWs out here, now doing crack and stuff, throwing away their college degree. You don't need a reason to fuck up your life. So I really relate to her and I agree with her with most of the things she says.
Yeah. What do you think of Zendaya's performance as Rue? I know a lot has kind of been said about her performance as Rue. A lot of people think she's doing a great job. Do you feel that the acting is realistic?
For somebody who, I don't personally know Zendaya, but I don't think she's gone through heavy addiction issues. So for someone who hasn't experienced that, I think she did an incredible job. Seriously. She did an incredible job because I don't know, to get into the mind of a drug addict is a very, very, very tough thing to do unless you're a drug addict. So she did a great job.
What dreams do you have for your future? What do you want to be?
I want to be a lot of things. I don't really put a limit on myself anymore. I used to think there's only one way to go. I have to graduate and I have to go to college and get a government job. And that's the only way I'll get to survive. Because that's, what I was taught, even though none of my family went to college. But I actually want to travel the world. If I had the option to backpack around the whole world, I would. But that's not gonna work out. So honestly, I'm a good artist. I love drawing. I've always been very creative. I've thought of being a tattoo artist. I've looked into schools for being an esthetician, doing lashes, all that stuff. I eventually want to open my own business, whether that be, cosmetics or clothing. I definitely want to open my own clothing line one day. And my main goal is just to do something that will help people, that impact people in a helpful way, whether it doesn't matter what it is. I just want to help people, honestly, in any way I can.
Is there anything else that you would like to share, just to share?
Yeah, for the people watching Euphoria and don't struggle with, addiction issues and look at it as as glorification because, you know, they obviously don't understand. Please just don't open your mind to that. Don't think like that. That's not what the crew or cast people was trying to do when they, you know, released the show. Just focus on the ugly, because that's all addiction will bring you, is ugly. When I was heavily into addiction, and I was looking at my future, if someone asked me like, where do you see yourself in 5 years, I would have told them in prison or dead. That's the truth. My whole father's side is addicted, you know. He was a heroin addict, an opiate user. He loved pills, and he was in jail for half of his life, and, you know, now he's dead. His sister's going through the same path. It's like people don't, oh, I can just, you know, fuck around a little bit with some drugs here and there. No, just don't do it. Please don't do it. It's not worth it.
Chloe, I think that you're honestly very, very intelligent, very, very beautiful, and that you are going to succeed in everything that you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I appreciate you being on here today. I really honestly wanted to speak with someone who was going through this. I did an interview with another young lady around your age. She's still in high school, I think. For a Safe Bay organization. I did a hot seat interview with her, and we talked about Euphoria for a quick second. We talked about Euphoria. And when it came to the parts of, you know, if the drug addiction aspects of the show are real, she said she could not speak to that because she had not gone through that. And I thought that was a really real answer. And I really wanted to speak to someone who'd gone through it. And honestly, I never thought I would find anyone, especially a young person like yourself, to speak to that issue in regards to Euphoria. And in the Euphoria group, I saw that comment you made. That person, they made like this really ignorant comment. This should only be for like 25 ups or something. And you like checked them, and it was so awesome. And I'm glad that you did.
Yeah. That bugs me. It's like you're 25 years old and you've experienced that. You don't think a 15-year-old or 18-year-old could. I was in treatment with 15-year-olds that were smoking fentanyl. Straight fentanyl that could kill them in any second. So it's like addiction is not limited to an age limit, which is also why it's very dangerous. And it's why I say be cautious of what you're, you know, watching, what you're putting into your brain at such a young age, because that's where things can get messy, and you can, you know, develop those kinds of mindsets and opinions and different views on things, and think it's glamorous. In reality, it's really not.
Right. Oh my gosh. It's really scary to think of. And I think that's another reason that parents are a little bit afraid of the show, or that even people who haven't gone through addiction have such strong opinions on this is glamorizing it. It's because it's scary and it's real.
Yes. It projects a lot of fear onto people, which it should. But I think the younger viewers should definitely watch it with a parental figure. You know, if they're just curious and want to, you know what the show's about, then
If you don't mind me asking, did you see the 13 Reasons Why?
I have, actually, yes.
What did you think of that? I just want to know from like a young person's opinion.
That one, I'm not really sure about that one. I didn't think it was very realistic. That show, I think, glamorized suicide for sure, 100%, in my opinion.
Right. No, a lot of people felt that way.
Yeah, just because I've, experienced the pain of going through losing a loved one to suicide, and it's not some crazy goose hunt to, figure out why and this. No, that's just so unrealistic. And yeah, I didn't really like that show a lot.
This has been a great conversation that I think is really important. Thank you so much again, Chloe.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. It was a great interview.
Oh, thank you. You have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.